So I was looking through my old record collection, and I want to talk about this David Bowie, Ashes to Ashes. I bought this when it originally came out in about August 1980, I think. It went to #1, so I in a way helped it on its way there. It was the first Bowie record that I ever bought. I mean, obviously I did know about him before then, but I didn't actually own anything by him. So this was the first one, yeah. And I've got lots of memories attached to this, particularly a scout camp in Ashford in that year. I can remember being played on a little radio that one of the kids had brought, and it was being played on the radio, and I just really loved it. And I remember the video that went through it with it as well, which was really groundbreaking at the time. Probably looks a bit dated now. I haven't seen it in ages, but I remember mostly of it is David Bowie flanked by a couple of others, all dressed rather bizarrely in front of a digger. For some reason, I'm sure it meant something, but I don't know what. Anyway, so David Bowie, Ashes to Ashes. So this is the cover. Here he is in his PRO outfit that he had at the time, that he wore at the time, and for some reason he's listening to a shoe. He was always weird, wasn't he? That's what I liked about it so much. And there's the back cover, and all the pictures here are all little, it look like little postage stamps almost, don't they, with him in different positions. And inside here, the record itself on the RCA label. I don't touch their records. You remember the days when you had records, you don't touch the grooves. You hold it by the center, by the edges. So on here we have Ashes to Ashes. This is the A side, produced by David Bowie and Tony Visconti from the forthcoming album Scary Monsters, or Scary Monsters and Super Creeps as it was. Ashes to Ashes by David Bowie, D. Bowie, Bowie Brothers music. So Bowie Brothers was that's a track on his album Hunky Dory, I believe. I think it was the last track on the album. Yeah. Published 1980, RCA Corporation. And you turn it over. The B side is Move On. Again, produced by David Bowie and Tony Visconti from the album Lodger, which was the album that came out the previous year, 1979. And that's the B-side. Move On by D. Bowie. And it's great, look at that. It's always a little bit dusty, isn't it? I remember I used to have this thing when I played my records. It was called a velvetone. It was just like a little velvet pad with a handle, and you put the record on the turntable and it would turn, and you just gently held the velvet thing to it, and it took all the dust off. They're beautiful, aren't they? I mean, just look at that. And you could, when I hold it like that, you could see all the lovely grooves. That contains a song. That's amazing, isn't it? And they're so tiny. And, oh no, look, I've made a little thumbprint mark. In here, I can't really see it very well. You can see they have a little impression, something scratched into the vinyl. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. No, I don't think you can. But it says Townhouse, Bowie A3. Oh no, A9. Oh, A9 or 3. I can't make that out. So there you are. Ashes to Ashes. Just a little bit damaged at the top there. So there you are, David Bowie. I was lucky enough to go and see him 10 years later after this, in 1990, in Milton Keynes Bowl, where he played live. I went with a friend of mine, and it was great. It was easily the best live concert I've ever seen. He's just so charismatic. And I got to be quite near the front. There was we got there quite early actually, and we were quite near the front anyway, but then there was a surge just as he came on, and I found myself sort of shoved up to the front, and I could actually see him. That's got to focus. I could actually see him on the stage, which was really quite something. I could actually watch him rather than having, you know, a lot of these big stadium type gigs where, you know, you're so far back, they're just dots on the stage and you end up watching it on the screen, and I never liked that. You go to see these people because you want to see them, not watch them on television. So I could actually see him and I didn't have to look at the screen. And easily the best live performance I've ever seen. Always stuck in my mind. I was so grateful that I managed to get to see him. I had a David Bowie t-shirt from that. Oh, that's just reminded me of something. A David Bowie t-shirt. Oh yes. Now a couple of years later, this is a bit of an aside. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent here, but a couple of years later, I went to see Rob Newman, David Baddiel, who were sort of up and coming comedians at the time. This must have been about 1992. Yeah, and I happened to be wearing my David Bowie t-shirt. And they did this thing where they looked out into the audience and were looking at people's t-shirts. And they saw mine and they said, David Bowie 1990. And then they said, one of them said, I can't remember which one now, was that the last time you wore a t-shirt? No wonder it's got yellow armpits. I never wore the t-shirt again after that. Scarred me, it did. Not really. I don't know why I said that. It's just reminded me. Just a little anecdote reminded me of. Anyway, there you go. David Bowie, Ashes to Ashes. I haven't really got much more to say about that. Okay. Thank you very much.